Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Westworld Season 1, it's over. And Ben Mankiewicz is finally joining us for a sit down for one of these with Kim Horcher and Tim Frisch and Alonso Duralde. You know, Bibbs brought up the question before.
Start off with a bang.
That's the review.
Bibbs brought up the question before, like, is this a problem that the show seems to be so proud of these twists that the internet saw coming a month ago?
Yeah, we
looks
ruined it
like
for ourselves.
For season 2, they're going to be focusing more on let's build this crazy world as opposed to what a twist over and over again. I think it's done amusing itself. I hope. With,
I hope
like,
so
how
too.
many mysteries it can make.
Is it really their fault that Reddit solved it? You know, like
No, I
mean,
don't think so.
Well, but it's a question of how much did it rely on that stuff, you know? Because I think you're right. There is a cool world here, and there's a world that allows a lot of different questions to be asked about the nature of humanity and, you know, the soul and free will and all that stuff that we've been kind of touching on over the course of the season. And the gotcha stuff, I wish they hadn't invested clearly so much time and effort into that when it was just sort of waiting for everybody to parse it to death.
Yes, I don't know that it was waiting for everybody to parse it. Can't read into their minds,
Sure.
but it did end up feeling like they spent a lot of time constructing whole plots just so they could be like,
Yeah,
right?
two timelines.
Right, and so it started to feel like that, like we're building to this moment and building again to this moment. So I think that, now, Matt, did you read Matt Singer by any chance?
I try not to read recaps, but Matt is great
I try
at everything.
to read as many as I can, because stuff doesn't occur to me until I read the recaps. But I thought his was particularly good. And this show was different for me. One reason why I haven't sat down with you guys, because I never caught up. I was always behind, so it never was a priority the way Game of Thrones, Leftovers, obviously then going back, Sopranos, Deadwood, The Wire, some of the biggest HBO shows. But I thought he made a great point, because what I liked best about this show, or one of the things I liked best was, and I always like this, is corporate intrigue. Like, I love that stuff, right? And so that seems like, sadly, hard to imagine a scenario where we get much more corporate intrigue in season 2 if it's not like nobody's going to be, I mean, there's going to be a priority in season 2, it seems like, probably to stop the rampaging robots from killing humans, that we're going to focus on humans hunkered down in bunkers, you know, and it's going to, seems like, I don't watch The Walking Dead, but it feels like
It's the human-robot war.
Right, it seems like we're headed for Walking Dead-like scenarios in season 2.
And we never really got that corporate intrigue payoff. We don't know what Delos' real interest in the park and the hosts
I
and
guess
the technology
maybe there's still
Did they
room for
ever
that.
get Mr. Abernathy
We
out,
never saw
or
him
is
again
he
after
in the
that
group
scene.
of the...
Abernathy was Dolores' dad?
Yeah, the one that they were like, let's put all the information in
and smuggle him
this
out.
one.
And then, I figured he had all the time in the world to get that host on a train, and he waits until the party's
Didn't
already
the train
going
already
on.
leave before that?
Well, I don't know. We know that Maeve doesn't leave on the train, which I thought was a bit of a cheat.
I thought that would have been so cool if Maeve was always the robot that was going to carry the stuff out of the park, because we learned that although she's trying to escape and she thinks it's
that
of
somebody
her volition,
planned for her to
is
escape,
that someone
right.
planned her escape.
Yeah, that's what happened.
So
Yes,
right.
but I thought that would have been Sizemore's host choice after all, not gone with
Not
Peter
Abernathy.
That would have fooled us.
who's Sizemore?
He's the
narrative
the writer.
the drunk writer.
The young guy, the
Yeah.
urinating writer.
Yes.
That fun guy.
Because it looks like he waits till the absolute last second to go get the robot and stuff it on a train, and when he gets there, all the hosts are gone.
Right.
So
one
he's
of the
probably in
problems,
the woods then.
Yeah.
one of the problems with this show is that when he opens that door, right, and it's not going, I still wasn't sure what door he was opening. You know, I'm like, oh, the room's empty. I don't know what room that is. The room is empty.
The room with all the water on the floor.
He looks at the wall and he's like, oh, 82. I'm supposed to be on 83. He gets never mind.
And again, the way this show operates in terms of, like, it's super high-tech security, except when 2 people get killed and no one notices until they start manually going floor by floor. It's like, so did Maeve disengage the system? Like, why? You know,
don't know.
It's so convenient what people see and don't see.
Maeve, Ford purposely sent Maeve that way to distract the whole security team so he can do his plot.
Yeah, we don't know who programmed Maeve. I think it's probably Ford too, but it would have been better if that had been a secret way to get her. Or it would have been interesting. I don't know about better. It would have been interesting if that had been a secret way to get her out. So when she gets off in the why did everything go black just because the hosts shut down the
Where?
when
The
she gets
train
off the
station.
train
She
and
Gets
then the
back in
train
the
station.
lobby. Welcome to Westworld.
Oh, that's like the security shutdown.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So,
But and I mean
Or it's like, hey, there's no humans in this room. We don't have to keep pretending anymore. It could be a detective.
Oh,
Because you'll notice when hosts walk into dark rooms, nothing happens. It's only when Felix follows them in that all the lights come on. So clearly, Westworld
I didn't figure that out.
is,
either.
is fine
That's
at
good.
sensing who's real.
Okay,
and
so
who's
maybe
not.
right. So maybe that. But wasn't there? But it sounded like a gunshot. I mean, I played it a couple times when the lights went out for Maeve. That effect, that audio effect, sounded like a gunshot, which I was sure we were getting back to, but we didn't. So maybe it.
Yeah, it certainly took her by surprise.
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk a little about Maeve not leaving, because on the one hand, it shows that she was if her programming was to leave, her not getting on the train then represents a certain amount of self-determination. On the other hand, she's not leaving to go find this daughter that is not really her daughter and that's a construct. But then does that mean that the construct is as strong as real love or a genuine relationship?
Because she unquestionably she sees the human mother and daughter, and she feels what she feels is genuine, right? Even if she knows the feeling is based on
An algorithm.
right? An algorithm. So, but we don't know whether because she had followed the program, we don't know whether she's supposed to get off the train. They programmed her to get off the train.
She's the questionable one, because we had this thing about Ford talking about what he's doing, and at some point there is some level of choice. You know, Dolores, are you the hero or the villain? And I think Dolores certainly is realized, and she definitely made a choice at the end. But with Maeve, it's not 100% clear. I think, like, she probably made a choice, but what if she didn't?
Well, and even Dolores' choice, you could look as just a replay of her previous not choice. You know, she's shooting Ford in the head in the same way that she shot Arnold because Arnold programmed her to do that.
Assumedly, Ford didn't. He just provided the means to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a season 2 question that would be interesting to talk about.
I would also
That was
point out that
I think that he made
Maeve-
that decision because he was like, I'm Anthony Hopkins and I'm not doing 2 seasons
Yeah.
of a television show.
The way I read it, I have a harebrained theory.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I think, remember when Teresa was killed and there was that thing getting printed, the body?
Yes.
I thought Ford, it's possible that he made a host of himself to go get shot, and maybe he's not actually dead.
Or he made his
Or-
human body to get shot, loaded in his own stuff into a host the way he did with Arnold, so that now he is immortal.
Right, now he's
Right?
immortal and he'll have and he loaded his own
Yeah.
memories in, so
Right,
he'll
right,
have
right.
his
So
own.
maybe more
Maybe.
Ford
Oh,
in some
maybe Anthony
way.
Hopkins
possible.
is coming back.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. Because you're right. First of all, that little thing he was.
It's like a Chekhov's gun, right?
I didn't.
We never saw it go
Killing
off.
Teresa was a blow for me. Like I'm not a fan of that because I dug her enormously. I don't mean in the way that in a creepy way or anything.
The character.
The character.
No one thought that before now.
Not before this moment.
I loved that character. No, I just
watch Duke of Burgundy.
like she was great. That was a really interesting character and was the pinnacle of corporate intrigue on television. So I regret her death. And so I was hoping that initially that you just reminded me that thing that was getting printed was that he was going to bring her back, but as a
Right, we
as a
speculated
host.
about
I'm
that,
sure.
yeah.
I'm sure people thought that. So I like the idea that either he killed the other one, but why wouldn't, if you're Anthony Hopkins' age, why wouldn't you bring back the immortal version?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I mean,
That-
speaking of
It
loose
could go either
ends,
way.
we never found out what happened to Stubbs and
Right.
Elsie.
In the Ghost
Or I
Nation.
guess Stubbs at least.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Oh, right.
Elsie, if you don't see him killed, and always
not dead,
they're not
right?
dead
Yeah,
on TV.
yeah, yeah.
I will say there is an augmented reality game going on right now on the Westworld website that seems to be very Elsie-centric.
Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
No, she's not dead. There's no way she's
There
dead.
are
got
Easter
a
eggs
real
to find
ending.
that have
Yeah.
to do with Elsie. So
I thought we saw Bernard kill her
Well,
on camera.
you saw him
No,
choking
he
her.
grabbed
Oh,
her.
okay, but
and-
that
and
didn't
just
finish.
grabbed her, pulled her
Okay.
away.
Didn't
You
show
know?
Okay,
her,
maybe
like,
not. You're
the
right, you're
life
right.
going out of her eyes or anything.
I would believe it if she was still alive.
My favorite part of this episode, I think, was the Dolores Man in Black / William confrontation, in which Dolores
Oh,
owns herself
Yeah.
and like realizes, oh shit, like you are rotting flesh. I'm the next wave. I can fight back. I can break your arm. I can, do all this stuff. That I thought was fascinating, and I thought for Evan Rachel Wood, it represented this really fascinating pivot of this character who seems so adrift and dependent upon where she's being pushed to. So to see her kind of, find the center of that, figurative maze was exciting. And yeah, I mean, even if it does lead to sort of a Walking Dead kind of like robots versus humans, that's something,
I didn't like I like what happened to Dolores, I suppose, although she ended up being less interesting than I anticipated and wasn't half as interesting or a third as interesting as Maeve. But there was so much explaining. There were a lot of speeches, a lot of catch you up speeches, including in that scene, which didn't seem like a scene that would have a speech in it. So I didn't care for that part. But the Dolores arc, although what kind of Advil do they have here at Westworld where Ed Harris gets his arm broken? And he did walk with it a little stiff, but that was...
Yeah, like he's not in a sling.
He's not in a sling. I mean, that arm, they gave us full sound effect on the arm breaking. And then he shook it off. He's all right. And I understand. So, but then Teddy shot him. Why did he fall down if it doesn't, like... I don't
Well, it's called, the Westworld people say it's called simunition. It does hurt.
Oh.
Like it's like airsoft type.
It's why the crystal decanters all break in the train car when the
Gatling gun?
Yeah, when the Gatling gun is shooting it, but nobody would die.
But in the first time that we saw Ed Harris, where he drags and assaults Dolores away, the bullets that were fired at him that time, they ineffective. He was just like whatever. It was not consistent. I'm not wrong.
That's a fair cop. Yeah.
And so. So we see this great moment where Teddy and Dolores ride off to the sea, where the desert.
The mountains meet the sea.
Right, right. And like that's supposed to be several days ride away, but it's like right next to Escalante. And then it is revealed that that's like the finale of Ford's little show.
Of the old narrative.
Yeah, that he puts on for the investors. But how did he know that Dolores was going to get stabbed and that? Because that was the Man in Black, and right.
Right, like how did that?
Like I get Teddy like dropping back into his preformed
Right,
narrative,
but he couldn't have known that William, the Man in Black, was going to oblige.
It made
in that
for
way.
a great shock, but it doesn't really hold up under scrutiny.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't hold up under too many questions.
Let me say the other thing that I find. By the way, I liked Westworld, and I look forward to season 2. Kind of. I have.
I'm with you on this.
I have
It's 2 years.
huge relief that it's over. Like huge relief that I don't have to worry about this anymore.
That could have worked as a series finale too.
It could have worked as a series.
Totally.
And I think that there was like about 30 minutes of stuff that you could cut out of that would make it a complete series.
So like, but let's okay. So the bandit and the bandits,
Hector and Armistice.
what are their names?
Armistice.
Armistice and Hector.
Armistice literally means like removing of arms.
Yes, right.
But then.
Right.
Oh, and did we all watch post the credits, by the way?
Yeah. So,
okay, just making
but
sure.
like so.
Because I wouldn't have. Like I just
I'm not
happened
gonna lie,
to
that
leave
was
it
a
on.
fun little storyline. They had some laughs in that.
They
one.
did, but
Where
why?
she picked up the gun and was psyched by it.
How are the security guards?
So inept.
I mean, Jesus, it's literally the
They're
worst
terrible.
security team ever, and they're creeping.
They should have better armor
Like,
too.
why are you creeping up? They're rampaging robots. Shoot the glass, to quote our friend Alan Rickman. Shoot the glass.
And also, wouldn't given how like if the host can detect humans and can detect other hosts, wouldn't you have weapons that could detect whether the person holding them were human or host?
Yeah, it
Like,
seemed-
wouldn't
yeah.
you have a machine gun that a host couldn't fire?
Yes, probably.
Just a thought.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
And then when Hector,
that's going
when
in version
Maeve-
2.0
when
for
Maeve
sure.
tells Hector that you're not coming, and she kisses him, and then she says, give us a good show. Like, there's no show to give. There's 18 guys with machine guns who are inexplicably trying to protect the asset of Hector. Like, he's got a machine gun. There's Davos board members everywhere.
They keep trying. Cecil motor functions. Cecil motor functions. I'll say it louder. Cecil motor functions.
Don't wait for him to shoot at you. Just pull the trigger and keep firing until you've blown him to smithereens, and then deal with it.
We had this talk on The Walking Dead too.
Yeah.
Why don't you just shoot him now?
But it's the old war. It's the old Germans in war movies. Like, hey, I want the Nazis to lose, but maybe don't shoot at people's feet all the time. Raise the gun up a little bit. It'll help out. Yeah. So that again, in what should have been a dramatic scene, that bothered me. I couldn't quite understand why they were getting away this easily. And I guess it was obviously it's bulletproof glass. We learned because we learned that if you stayed through the credits, you got to see Armistice cut off her own, and then we don't know go where. but presumably she's still around.
Samurai world.
Right, samurai.
Oh,
Which-
yeah,
Which
that
again,
was new.
Didn't matter. They didn't interact with any of those samurai characters.
next.
That
They-
seems
we'll
like
I think that's
season
a
two.
warm up.
no,
Yeah.
no, I get it. I got
And as soon as I thought of it, oh, of course, because there would be like a huge tourism market that is maybe not giving a shit about the American West, but would want like their own past.
Well,
you
Well, and
know?
what were the
Japan.
two? There were two other worlds in Westworld, the movie.
Roman,
Roman,
world and medieval
Right.
world.
Roman and medieval. So I took
is
this as like this
Game
is
of Thrones.
right. This is their version of the other worlds. that
Or
would
maybe
And
there's
Rome.
9 of them there. Like,
Right.
They
who
did,
knows,
they
right?
did
Maybe
say
there's another-
Park 1
Yeah.
when saying the location.
On
of
the little
maybe-
Oh, right,
Right,
yeah,
Park
the
one,
sector.
sector,
You know?
But I liked. I hope that that was a moment of Maeve breaking the narrative she'd been written. But also because if it's all a narrative that she's been given and she's doing it, then when she says how many others are like me, and Jeffrey Wright says
They
you
all
know
go crazy.
a few like right they all went crazy. But how is she? In what way is Maeve ultimately different? Like I don't.
I think that's one of the bigger question marks of the season, is the fact that we really don't know if she's out of her loop or she has 2 conflicting loops that she gets to pick between, and she's really being manipulated by someone we haven't found out about yet.
Yeah, it could be like when we find out that Dolores has been what's his face all
Wyatt.
along,
Yeah,
Wyatt. You know,
because she has instructions of what to do on the mainland, so clearly she doesn't get as far as that.
Right.
But is her rejecting that path, that narrative, her saying, no, I'm really not being controlled now, or her saying, no, I'm going to go way back to my cornerstone and find my daughter because that's all that's important to me.
And also, this is I love talking about the nuts and bolts of this world. Is Westworld an island? Because they're at the seashore, obviously, and every time we see that diorama in the security room, it seems like
Seems like an island. So you'd be taking a train to the airport at the end of the island, and then you'd fly out.
They and Jurassic Park share an island.
There you go.
Does this island disappear? Is this island going to vanish on us, like the island in Lost?
Oh God. Or global warming, you know.
Anyway, so look, but it's not nitpicking because the nuts and bolts of the thing are part of what is. I mean, you make this show. The nuts and bolts are what people are going to talk about, right? Or well, wait a minute, how come the bullets didn't affect this time and didn't? That stuff. I think that stuff. I don't feel like it's nitpicking on Westworld.
The way I read Maeve's decision, I suppose, or maybe not decision, to go back and find her daughter was, looking at that daughter is, she has that feeling of, I feel these things, they feel real to me. Maybe the simulacrum is just as good if it makes you feel the same way.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Right.
I agree. That would be, and if she sees that daughter might remember her, and that's going to be.
I mean, it's
genuine
like
in
they're
there.
trapped there, but is that, good enough for her? Is this what living
Yeah,
is?
exactly. I mean, I think we get into that Dark City, the Matrix thing, where the robots, if the hosts can't distinguish genuine memories and whatever from programming, then does that make them any less valid? And what's our reality and what do we know? And do the things that we think we've actually experienced, are they really?
And ultimately, Ford's plan that Dolores realizes is that this world is for them, not for the guests. And that's what's happening now. So Maeve is going back to participate in the world that is ultimately for her to grow and realize who she is in.
So
to an extent.
So in a way, this is sort of the long game of the Arnold thing of instead of killing all the instead of closing the park by killing all the hosts, you close the park by killing all the
Right.
human
So
beings.
Arnold wanted to spare the hosts from their never-ending suffering
Right.
that they would slowly start to remember and become more cognizant of. And then Ford realizes that that's the only way to make them.
And we could get into literally talking off the top of my head, that Maeve and Dolores next season could become sort of a Ford-Arnold split. Like one of them presumably is going to think, maybe we shouldn't kill all of the guests, right? Maybe that's not the world we should be creating. And oddly enough, that might be Maeve making the Arnold argument, and Dolores being the seemingly harsh one. Why is his name Robert Ford?
What's wrong with that?
Well,
name?
that's the
it's
guy
already
who
a
killed
coward.
Jesse
That's
James.
the coward Robert Ford, that
Oh.
dirty little coward.
Maybe that's an illusion there for you to think about.
I
but
think
the one
it's
that doesn't
obviously an
quite fit.
illusion,
But
but why and what does
Why?
it mean?
Like he doesn't.
You know?
Who did he betray? Did he betray the?
He betrayed
Arnold.
mankind.
He betrayed Arnold, I guess. Yeah,
Did he
sure.
though?
But Arnold, ultimately Arnold did kill himself. He's right. He didn't. Arnold, unless we're gonna go.
We all thought of Ford as being this evil guy, but as it turns out, he I would
Yeah,
view him as the least evil.
He evolved.
Yeah, well, he
And it
took
took
35
Arnold's
years.
death to do so. That's when he
and
realized that-
35 years. But I mean, he did kill Teresa, but part of killing Teresa was because if she wins, then the hosts are
And
never
everything's
free.
nothing,
Are
yeah.
never free.
Well, yeah, and again, what is the real plot of Delos beyond Westworld? We don't know yet. Like that's been hinted at every so often, but they're still keeping that a secret as far as like what nefarious schemes do they have with the robot army? And then of course, when I found out that Charlotte's last name was Hale, I started thinking about Charlotte Vale from Now Voyager, and that took me nowhere, so I dropped it. But you know, there's at least stuff for season 2 to chew on, and I hope that it does it in a way that is more about either the broader scope of the story or an episode by episode thing of interesting revelations, rather than these two big reveals that we wound up all seeing coming. And they knew that Reddit existed when they started this show, so that's it's no excuse.
And we're going to get what we will get in season 2, presumably, are some interesting humans. I mean, we had really one interesting human, Jimmy Simpson, and that was it. And presumably we'll get a lot more of and kids, and we'll start to identify with people who came with incredibly wealthy people who are in trouble.
Poor them.
Yeah. All right, are we good?
But no, yeah, I'm with you though. I like this show, but my excitement for season 2 has been tempered a bit by how this has proceeded. But I'm still interested in seeing it and finding out what
By
they
the
do.
time it rolls around, and how long are we waiting?
2 years.
2 years.
Well,
2018.
it's 2018, so I don't know what they haven't announced what
All
season.
right, so probably early 2018, but we're waiting a long time for this. Yeah, and I'm sure I'll be psyched by then. But man, it was enormous relief when it was over. I was like, oh, okay, thank goodness.
I would watch more of this.
These violent delights had violent ends.
They do indeed. All right, thanks for watching, you guys.